Oh, hey, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Ha! Technology didn't do its thing, so you're right. You're not imagining that. It just blurted on and went away. So anyway, let's move on. Welcome to Conversations with Geoff. We want to thank everybody that's been following us, everybody that's been supporting us. And for those of you that are new, welcome to the community of progress, not perfection. Welcome to the community that's focused on being a shift in our environment. That shift meaning quieting that noise that's going on out in the outside world, that thought that's spinning around in your head, that thinking that we all have, right? Yeah, that one. You probably had feeling like that this morning. I know some mornings I'm like, man. And then, hey, I remember if I'm telling you to pay attention to what's going on in your life and in your head, I need to do the same thing. I don't want to tell you that I'm perfect at it. I just want you to know that I have to work at it just like you will too. And you're going to find out from our guest today that this woman has just done had plenty of reason, plenty of challenges to throw in the towel. But no, you're going to find out that she found the pathway and divine care. And this is just a powerful guest, right? So let me just get through my stuff. I got to take you down a little journey before we get there, right? Yes. Because the purpose of the whole thing around and the mission around Conversations with Geoff is really simple. It's to help you become aware of the conversation you're having with yourself about yourself and give you some tools and some techniques and some habits that you can begin to change. We bring in guest speakers that are ordinary people with powerful results in their life by doing this very same thing that we're talking about. And they'll leave you with some things that you can do right now, right this moment, to change what's going on in your head, what's coming out of your mouth, the energy that you're going to have, right? The energy, right? Hey, how often do you feel tired and happy at the same time? It's always, man, I'm sure happy. I ain't tired no more. Or, you know how it goes. So pay attention. That is the one gift that we all have. This should get you really excited. I'm going to talk about this for one more minute. Listen, this gift that I'm talking about, the whole conversation you're having with yourself, that 6 inches between your head, listen to me. We all can take advantage of that. So no matter where your life has been, no matter what rut you're in, no matter what bad choices you made, no matter how your business is going, your personal life, your health, we all can do something different in our lives, man. Got to get excited about that. I'm trying to tell you, right? So remember, no more stinking thinking. It's I will, it's I can, it's I must. And let me tell you something, that limiting belief, no place for that today. I know I can. I believe I can. And yes, you can do that, right? And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Geoff Tyson. I'm the host of the show. And I'm known as the comeback king, right? I got that name because I've been practicing what I'm talking to you about for the better half of my life, right? I've had challenges in relationships and sports and, big letdowns around the sports thing and corporate world and business ownership. And now my health, I'm dealing with those things, man. But you know what? I said, get back, right? I'm telling you, punch it in the face and I show up, man. And that's what I want you to be able to do, right? Because here's the thing, as I get ready to bring in our guests, I want you to think about one thing that you keep saying over and over again that changes your attitude, that takes away the energy, that puts that roadblock in front of you, that keeps you stuck. There's a whole lot. I got a whole lot. I'll give you a hint. Maybe it's that verbal statement that you make every day that I'm stressed out, I can't take another, whatever that might be. Or I'm so tired, I just want to, whatever that might be. Or, the real one. Nobody wants to hear what I have to say. I'm here to tell you we do. And it's our responsibility. It's our responsibility to be able to share it. All right? We want you to be a part of us reaching 1 million people in this place, changing the conversation they're having with themselves about themselves. All right. So anyway, I love it. All right. So hey, look, let me just give you a quick review of our upcoming guest, who's a dear friend that I met a few years ago when we haven't talked for a while, and this woman is amazing. As a self-possessed, professed, man, mess turned minister and mentor, Tomi Ferguson optimizes her experiences as a wife, mother, teacher, orator, and life coach practitioner to disciples, and dispatch women of impact into their God-given callings in ministry and in the marketplace. Please forgive me for messing this bio up. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. This woman is real. Let me bring to the stage my friend, Tomi Ferguson. All right. Where you at over here, my friend?
Hey, my friend.
What's up, Tomi? How you doing?
I am doing wonderfully, more blessed than I deserve.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about that, lady. So thank you for bringing that beautiful smile to light up the stage. I was sorry, how I just messed up your name and everything.
No, you didn't. You did what you're supposed to do. It was befitting a mess turned minister. Hey, it's okay. It's okay. Trust me.
I love it. Oh, wow. Yeah. So, hey, listen, I didn't get a chance to check in before, but how's the family? Everybody good? I see you guys on Facebook and everything. Big smiles. Everybody good?
Everyone is wonderful. My amazing husband, God in flesh, just loving on me and spoiling me, keeping me right. And my baby girl is doing wonderfully. She's 11 now. And
Wow.
my son, since we last spoke, has gotten married. So I have inherited a daughter in love. Yes, so God has been good.
Wow,
Yeah.
man. That's tremendous, son. Your baby girl's 11?
She is 11 and just phenomenal young woman of God coming into her own. She's a leader amongst her peers. We homeschool, so
Yep.
she's just been growing so wonderfully, and I'm just loving the time we get together. I really am watching her just blossom into this thing that God. I was like, you gave her to me? Are you sure? Are you sure?
Yeah, check with it, right? It's for
I
real,
checked
for
with her.
real. Man,
Yes, but
so,
everyone is doing well.
yeah, good. And the baby boy's flown the nest now. How was it letting somebody else step into his world?
You know what? It took some trust in God
Yeah.
because I hold my son very tight. I don't want to say my baby because he's a whole man, but that's my prized possession. But knowing that he was he didn't just grow up, he was raised up to be a husband, to be a leader, to be someone that protects and cares for someone's daughter. So I was more concerned with the woman, like, hey lady, we've cultivated this man. Come on now, don't come in here and do him dirty. And so, but she's amazing, and he is blessed. They are doing wonderfully, and so that was my biggest thing, wanting to make sure I knew what he was and I knew what he was capable of, and just wanting to make sure he had the right help meet. And God is doing what God do. He guiding.
Yeah, how about that? How about that, right? And well, I mean, and he's had a good example at home.
Yes, my husband has been a phenomenal model. Yeah.
Yeah. And so often, our young men or women don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
And really, your journey is kind of, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, at early age, there were some really crazy things that you experienced that
Yeah.
people look at you today and say, "No way,"
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we just get to it? Like peel the band-aids off, for people that are sitting out there holding on to some things that they think is just the end of the world for them. So let's speak to that, folks. And those of you that are dialing in, we're going to talk about. You think about comeback king for me. You're going to hear some comeback things from this queen that we have in front of us today. So, why don't we go back a little journey and tell us how life was for you at that age, where you were.
Yes. Like I said, I use that term mess turn minister, and I don't say it as a cliche, but my life really started off very messy. Some of it was before I was big enough to do anything to contribute to the mess, and then I continued the mess when I got big enough. But I was born to a mom and dad, young couple, married, loved each other. But I was born in the '80s, and it was the height of the crack epidemic, and so unfortunately, my dad actually came to become addicted to drugs, and my mom and her two children, my brother and I, she tried her best to make it work, but then eventually she just had to walk away. They separated, and she came to Alabama from New York. And so coming here, she had family, she had friends, but it was still kind of a everybody get it for yourself type of mentality. And so she was young, and she didn't have the best circle and sphere of influence. So she made some choice decisions and had some people in her life. And I grew up around violent situations. I grew up around a mom who had the most tender heart, the most loving heart. And unfortunately, some men who didn't know who they are, who didn't know their role and their responsibility to a woman, abused that love, abused that woman. And I saw that. And at a very young age, I started to develop this independence and this little shield of, I will never let that happen to me. I have to be tough. I have to be able to defend myself. I have to be able to count on myself. And not only did some of the people that my mom had in her life abuse her, but at one point I was sexually abused by one of her boyfriends. And it really it did some damage to me. But again, it intensified that self-reliance and that need to, I have to be strong, I have to be tough, I can't trust people, I especially can't trust men. And so I grew up being this person that I didn't like authority. I did not like authority. I didn't know what it meant to have a man protect you. I didn't know what it meant to have a father protect you. And sadly, that impacted my relationship with God, because people always say God the Father, but my idea of a father was either absent or abusive. And so I just became this strong woman. And in my strength, being a young woman, thinking I know it all, I started to go down a similar path of making bad choices in relationships. And as a teenager, I became a teen mom. Yeah. Now I was an A student. I was a good girl, never got in trouble for anything else. However, that was my Achilles heel. And I remember when I got pregnant with my son, everyone around me was like, you have ruined your life. What are you going to do now? You're supposed to be going to college next year, and here you are pushing out a baby. And they were shocked because I hid it well. I hid my Achilles heel well because I made good grades. I never got in trouble. I wasn't the child that you had to correct. Because I saw my mom go through so much trauma and so much struggle, I was like, I'm going to be that good girl. I'm going to be that child that mommy can be proud of. I became a people pleaser in every other aspect. It was like I was a geisha wearing a mask. What you saw wasn't what was happening behind the scenes. So when I got pregnant with my son, it was like the mask was snatched off of me because I couldn't hide that. And that was actually the first time that I re-engaged my relationship with God as my father, because everyone else around me was like, you can't keep this kid. You're going to college. You have your future. You're going to be a statistic. You just need to just go on down to the clinic and get rid of it. And I cried out to God, and I was like, I've read your word. I haven't always obeyed it, but I know what it says. And you've given this child to me, and you said before you formed him in my womb, you knew him. So what am I supposed to do with this? And I remember God saying to me, I got you. I got you. And so it was me and him from that point forward. And it would be awesome to say I just jumped into this relationship with God and everything was great, but I didn't. I stayed a knucklehead. I stayed treating him like a genie that I call on when I want something and ignoring the rest. And, And along that way, I met my husband while I was in high school. We talked on the phone for about a month, and then we met face to face. And after that, the rest was history. We were together for about a little less than a year. And he was like, you're supposed to be my wife. I want to marry you. But the trauma that I experienced, watching my mom go through tumultuous relationships, watching abuse, watching, my mom had another child in the midst of me growing up. When I was about 5, my brother was born, and his dad was extremely abusive to the point where my mom had to actually purchase a firearm to defend herself. And in an unfortunate situation, he ended up losing his life. And I saw the whole thing play out. And I just became extremely like dedicated to, I have to be the defender for myself, for my family, for everyone. So when it came to my husband coming into my life, he was a great guy. He wasn't raised in the best circumstances either. He grew up in a single family home. His mom, his sister, his grandma raised him. So he had a good heart, but he didn't have any man training.
Yeah.
And so my toughness, I was like, I'll train you. I got this. I'm a strong woman. Yeah, I was like, I can take the lead. I'll just, you can grow up in the process. I didn't know what it meant to be a wife. I didn't know what it meant to be a partner. I didn't know what submission meant. Submission to who? For what? And that was my mentality. And I made that man wait 8 years before I actually married him. I said yes the first year, and I made him wait 8 more because I was terrified.
Yes.
What marriage would bring because of my history, because of what I saw growing up, because of what I had gone through. And I didn't realize at that point that I was starting. It was no longer what happened to me when I was a kid. It was no longer just happenstance. I was self-sabotaging.
Yeah.
Blessings, good people, good things were coming into my life, but I had developed this wall of, I'm not going to let anybody else hurt me, or either I'm going to hurt you before you hurt me. I'm going to push you away. And that way I can negate being hurt. And I would push my husband away. The more he tried to get close to me, I would just do little sabotaging things to try to make him break up with me. Because I'm like, you too good to be true. You can't really want somebody with my flaws, want somebody with my history, want somebody with my trauma. You can't want that. You coming into a relationship and I have a whole child over here. I know your mama has to be like, yes, girl.
You better watch out for her because she up blah blah blah. You know how we do going down there. But let me just slide in here for just a second time. I really appreciate you dropping this stuff. I hope y'all are listening out there, because we're sure she's not the only one that's experienced this kind of stuff. And I got to raise my hand. I'm listening to you say, I'm writing notes and I'm putting a check mark next to what applies to me at that age, right? So fellas, listen up, right? It's not just a woman thing that she's talking about. You talk about people pleasing. You talk about needing to be strong. You talk about, the not being worthy of love.
Yeah.
And I had to just say, hey, man, woo. So you're doing all this, you're making him wait 8 years, and obviously the layers began to peel off.
Yeah.
Obviously there was some connection with God, and kind of go back to where you were. I mean, I know I kind of maybe threw you off for a second. I just wanted to share, something I felt really resonated that we didn't want to get too far away from.
Yeah, that's fine.
The people pleasing and all of those things, man, that still goes on today. And you moms and dads that are hearing this, know that your daughter or your son is experiencing these same things in the classroom with the bullies and all the other things. And it doesn't, it's not just women only. I'm telling you, I was that kid, that goofy looking kid that got picked on, that hated life, hated myself, all that stuff I share about a lot of times. So I hear you when you say that. So you're going through this, you're big and you're bad and you're bold and you're telling this man and all this, but on the inside, that little girl is in there holding on. When was it that things began to change? What was the turning point with all this stuff that happened to you?
Well, the turning point was partly when I realized he wasn't going nowhere. He was persistent. He was persistent.
You couldn't get rid of him no matter what.
I couldn't, but you know what? God knows what you need before you know you need it. He knew exactly who to put in my sphere of influence. My husband, my friends. I needed people that could love me unconditionally, that could see past the facade and say, I'm not turning you loose. And I used to pray all the time when I was a little girl, like, God, please, I just want to feel your hug. Can I see your face? Can like you actually audibly talk to me? Because I wanted to really, really have a relationship, but I didn't know what that was like. So with my husband, that was kind of like one of the first things that helped peel the layer back, because he was consistent. It wasn't something that was conditional based upon my reaction or what I did. It was a consistency. And that made me really want to step back and say, wow, this guy is really being nice to you and loving you unconditionally. But look at what you're giving him. You're giving him just whatever. That's not right. And so I started to really introspect and say, okay, look at you, girlfriend. Yes, you've been through what you've been through. But there's also been a lot of good things that have come out of that. There's also been a lot of blessings that come out of that. You've also had a resolve that came with that. And you've had a God that has been very consistent. And so I started to introspect and really look at all the identity crises that I was having. I was trapped behind fear, and it was disguised as strength. Yeah, I would be twofold. I would go into every situation ready to fight, whether it was business, if anybody corrected me on anything, I had to have a clap back to it. I had to defend my position. I would even try to weaponize the Bible. When I read the word, I wasn't reading it for me. I was reading it to find the scriptures that I can use, because the next time this person say this, I'm going to be ready with it. Like, I really had that mentality. And I had to step back and say, wait a minute, you don't know who you are. And when you don't know who you are, you will play to whatever version of you think you need to be in whatever situation. If you're around people that intimidate you or that you think you need something from, then you'll be super nice and super sweet and super agreeable and say yes when you mean no. Or you'll get around other people that mean you well, but if you feel you have a dominant voice or the upper hand, then you'll mold over them for your own agenda. And so I had to realize I didn't know who I was. And I was playing all these roles, and depending on who would ask me who was Tomi, I had a different description for it on a different day. I was this geisha wearing this mask, just filling in the blanks of life. And I had to go back to the genesis of, okay, who am I? And I'll say this. If you want to know the purpose of anything, the best thing to do is ask the person who made it. There are always going to be people that have an opinion about something. Like this thing on my desk, it's an X-Acto knife. You can ask somebody, what is this? They can say it's a butcher knife. They can say it's a weapon. They can say it's a cutty thingy, whatever it is. But the person who made the X-Acto knife is going to tell you that this specific tool is for a specific purpose, typically for cutting paper. It's not meant, it can be used for a weapon, but that's not what it's for. It can be used to cut vegetables or cut wood, but eventually it's going to dull and it's going to break. And that's what was happening to me. I wasn't operating in my purpose and my identity, and I was starting to dull and I was starting to break. And so when I stepped back and I prayed and I was like, Jesus, who am I? And why did you make me? And why am I going through all this stuff? I didn't deserve that. I didn't do anything. I was born into these situations. Like, where are you? Do you even care? And he had to say, my daughter, I wrote a love letter to you. Go open it. And Geoff, I grew up, I'm not going to say I grew up in the church, because I was consistently ping-ponging in and out. The earlier part of my life, my mom, she would try to send me. She didn't necessarily go, but she would send me with people. And then later years, she became active and I would go. But I would be at church on Sunday after I had been in the club till 2 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. Yeah, I would shut it down so they started playing the slow music. And then I would be there trying to sing in the choir on Sunday. So, the word tells us you have a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. If you ask me, I was a Christian. I believed in God. I believed in Jesus. I went to church, but those were all things that I did. It was no different than being a fan of a sporting team. You sit in the stands, you like them, you like when they winning, but if they're not winning and you can't brag, you'll jump ship in a minute. You don't have any skin in the game. You're not down on the field. It's different when you're on the team, when you're on the field. So I was in the stands of Christianity, but I didn't have no skin in the game. And so when I started to really look at God's word and see what he said about me and all the beautiful things he had to say about me as his daughter, and I would hear sermons and people preach, and some people preached that everything that I ever wanted, he was waiting to give it to me, like this prosperity gospel. And then on the other side, I would hear people talk about all the things I couldn't do because I was a woman. And neither one of those were really interesting to me. When I started to see the beauty of who God said I was and the gifts that he had for me that I didn't even deserve, I didn't deserve, and that I wasn't too tainted and I wasn't too broken. And there were other people that came before me that had done similar things, worse things, and he still redeemed them. He still used them. He still called them his own. I finally started to say, okay, now I'm getting somewhere. And when I did that, when I tell you, Geoff, I started prioritizing making time for intimacy with God, not religion, but relationship. Relationship with him. Getting up and saying, okay, before I do anything else, is me and you. What do you want me to say? What do you want me to hear today? Before I start giving you my laundry list, what you want to say to me? Like my marriage. When I made it a priority, when I made it special, when I pursued him, he would talk to me. He would speak to my heart. He would show me how even the things I went through as a child, I can actually use them in 2023 to help someone else. My son that people said was a mistake is ministering now and saving people in this generation from suicide and helping people. And he's such a generous giver. I started to see the purpose in my pain. And I started to see that my purpose, that big mouth little girl that was always told to shut up, that person that was bold and audacious, that, hey, I was a fire that hadn't been refined and held. I was burning up everything. But God said, I'm going to use you to make warmth. I'm going to use you to make some food with. Don't fire out. Let me just show you what this fire is for. When I went back to the creator and said, what did you design me for? He showed me my purpose, and he showed me how to wield my gifts and not use them as a weapon of self-destruction or a weapon of mass destruction, but something that could actually be a blessing to myself and to other people. And so that's why my bio says that I'm a person that's trying to disciple, develop, and dispatch women, because I want to help other women. And it's no knock to men. I love the men of God. I love all of God's sons out there, but there are men like you, Geoff, like my husband, that have been called to train them up, to encourage them, to teach them. And the women like me are there to love them, to edify them, to come alongside them and encourage them and be that helpmeet. You know, we have different functions, equally important, but just a little different. So for the ladies, I'm here to help them to say, hey, let's go to daddy and see what your role is. Let's see what your design is for. And if you need a little help sharpening that and polishing that, let me help you to do that too. Let me help you to get equipped. And then lastly, now let's see, where in the world are you supposed to be that do that? Is it in ministry? Is it in church? Or is it out in the world doing something else? But you have a purpose, but you can't go to Ford and ask why a Tesla was made. You got to go to the Tesla manufacturer if you want to know what the Tesla was made. And so, you know, that God just really, it was going back to Jesus. It really was. And accepting that gift of salvation and that grace and that mercy that I didn't deserve. I can't earn it. I can't lose it. Nobody can take it from me, not heaven or hell, angels or demons. It's a free gift. And if I accepted it and if I walked in it, I would be okay. But if I kept trying to do work and kept trying to wear the geisha mask, then I was going to burn myself out and I was going to miss out on it. He didn't want a slave. He wanted a daughter. He wanted a relationship.
I see the light in your face and the brightness in the screen as you share that, you know, and normally, Tomi, I don't give as much time to the message as I have, but you obviously, this conversation needed to be heard today. So those of you that are listening, man, you need to go back and listen to it again, because it's just a plethora of things that she shared for both men and women, and boldly confessed her character flaws at that time, character defects, and the reasons behind that time. And as we get there, you know, there's I just, you know, what I'm gonna go all the way midway back to where you started, just to kind of ask the question, because, you know, it's one thing to you talked about, I call it a dressed up garbage can. You know, you were all these things on the outside, but and I always tell people, but on the inside, man, when I use the garbage can because you live in the South, you know what the heat does to the garbage can, so you know how that funk just blow you. Stanky stank funk, right? Not just stinking, stanky stank funk, right? And that's how I felt about me.
Yeah.
How was just the real raw feeling you had about self?
Mm. Um, well, because of the abuse and because of the well, let's say this. When I was growing up, I was blessed enough to have people in my life that encouraged me all the time. So I always heard, you're smart, you're pretty, those things. And then when the sexual abuse situation, that tied together made me think my value was in my body. My value was in my feminine energy, my feminine strength. I am woman, hear me roar. I developed like this lustful spirit that if I was beautiful, if I wielded my womanly woes, then I could make the world spin that however I wanted it to spin. And that was manipulation. Um, it was just ugly. It really was. I diminished everything else about me and I focused on that. And again, it was a mask because I felt vulnerable. I felt scarred. I felt tainted. I felt like my worth had been taken away from me. I felt unlovable. Once I got pregnant with my son, I was like, oh my gosh, I just put myself on the clearance rack. Like, who's going to want some young girl that can't even keep her legs closed? I don't care how smart you are, because we know, yes, it's good to have intellect. Yes, it's good to have accolades and accomplishments, but your character, the essence of who you are internally, that's what matters most. And so, because I was being a character instead of having character, I thought that how I saw myself, everybody else saw me that way too. And so I felt empty and I felt like I wasn't worthy of stuff. And on the outside, I exuded this confidence that people thought, oh, she's so, I wish I can be like you. I wish I can talk like you. I wish I could just strut like, oh, when she come in, she just strut and look at her. They didn't realize I was speed walking because I was trying to hurry up and get past so they wouldn't really see the dirt and the stains, the scarlet letter that I thought was on me. They thought I was strutting. No, baby, I was speed walking past you. I was gone. But yeah, and then I would try to overcompensate in every other area of my life. So I sing. I wanted to be the best singer because if I can sing real good, then you all don't notice these character flaws. And then I wanted to be very intellectual. So I became obsessed with school and learning and books. And if there's a master class, I'm in it. If there's a business idea, I'm doing it. Because if I can be super smart, maybe I can create this new identity for myself and nobody will look over there at what I've done. They'll just focus on, wow, she's so smart and amazing. I kept trying to find things to cover up, like makeup, to keep layering on instead of fixing what was underneath it, instead of facing the me versus me, the person I looked in the mirror after everyone was gone, after all the noise quieted, the person I was left with, did I really like her? Everybody else was singing her praises, but was she really her? And I always felt like I was going to get found out. It was like an imposter syndrome. It was an imposter. I always felt like somebody's gonna pull back the curtain on the Wizard of Oz, and they're gonna find out that Tommy isn't as smart as y'all thought she was. She isn't as saved as you thought she was, because child, she had that baby at 16, and she isn't as blah blah blah. And it really did a number on me. And you know what? I started to deflect onto other people because a lot of time I would say stuff like, she thinks she's all that, or she thinks such and such, or she don't like me because, but it was really how I felt and I was projecting it onto other people. And so I had to really sit in that mess, that stink that you're talking about. I had to sit in it. I think it's Jennifer Washington that says, if you sit in crap long enough, you'll eventually stop smelling it. You won't even smell it. I had sat in it so long that I stopped smelling it and I started thinking it was coming from somewhere other than me. And I had to realize, now you rotten on the inside, girlfriend. You are so rotten and you have to do something about that. It was not healthy at all. And I could mask it up. I could put perfume on it. But until I faced that thing and said, this is the true condition of where you are, I couldn't even be honest with God about it.
Yeah.
Because God can't fix who you pretend to be. He can only fix when you present yourself. He already knows it, but he still gives you the respect, the free will to come to him honestly and say, this is me. I'm putting me in front of you. Search me, oh Lord. Search the condition of my heart. Show me anything you're not pleased with and pull it out. Help me. I need help. And my false strength that I was putting out would not allow me to humble myself and say, I need help in life with my husband or with God, with Jesus. I would not ask him, Holy Spirit, help me. I would try to do this DIY thing where I'm figuring everything out myself, having this hustle mentality for my life. And the more I did it, it was like quicksand. The deeper I got in the situation. And eventually I got up to my neck and I couldn't wiggle no more. And I had to be like, help me.
Okay, I give
in.
I can't.
Yes, but luckily we serve a good God who says, even when you get down in it, I'll reach down and I'll pull you out. He never leaves you. He never forsakes you. You can never be too trash for him. You can never close that door. So even after all of that, he was just sitting there like, do you need my help yet? Are you ready? And when I finally did, it changed everything, Geoff. And my heart breaks because we live in a time where every time I turn on my television, I don't even watch TV no more, but I can't go on YouTube, I can't go on Facebook without someone ending their life, without someone having addiction to something, without people talking about anxiety and depression and beautiful marriages falling apart, people's children what are they calling now? Canceling their parents, and everyone wants to expose everyone. And the root of it, is a bunch of broken people who don't know who they are. And because hurt people, we're just hurting everyone around us to try to negate our own hurt. We're trying to mask it, suffocate it, hide it behind something. And God is saying, hey, come to me, all those who are broken, who are heavy hearted. Come to me. My yoke is easy. My burden is light. I'll take that off for you. But some people have been so hurt, they won't accept it. Or they've been so enamored with the noise of life, they can't even hear him calling out to them. And they're suffering and they're sinking in that quicksand. And they're trying to find their identity in their job, their career, their relationships, a bottle, drugs, anything. And it's going to come up empty. I don't say that as a criticism. I say that as somebody who has been sick and have tried everything. And at the end of that rainbow, there is no pot of gold. If I can tell them anything, it's not there. There's no little leprechaun man with the pot of gold waiting for you. There's emptiness. If you don't go back to the manufacturer and find out who you were designed to be, and to give all those pains to him. And in exchange, he's going to exchange it for peace, for purpose, for joy, for community, for love, unconditional, agape love. The kind that you can't earn it, you can't shake it. Not this temporary love that we give each other as people, but an unconditional agape love is waiting for you.
Wow. Well, listen, I wish we could go on and on and on, but I can't do that today.
I know.
So how do people get a hold of you? What's the best way to do that? Please tell us that.
Well, my name is Tomi Ferguson, Tomi. And so on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, everything is official Tomi Ferguson. And you can find me on any of those platforms. I am someone that will respond if you message me. And like I said, for the ladies that are out there, it is my heart's desire to help you to walk through those pains, no matter what your pain point is. If you are feeling like, I don't know who I am, I've tried everything and it doesn't work. If you're struggling right now in your marriage, or if your marriage has ended in divorce, if you're having trouble with your kids, trust me, I can help you to get on that path to where you need to get, so that you can start to heal, and so that you can start to actually live in that joy, not happiness, which is conditional, but joy. So official Tomi Ferguson on any of the platforms is where you can find me.
All right. So that information will be on the description if you don't see it in the chat. And this recording will be available for those to keep. So Tomi, man, much love to you, my sister, for all that you are, all that you are meant to do. And what can you say as we say goodbye today?
I'll tell everybody out there, and it probably sounds cliche, but there is purpose in your pain. It wasn't for nothing. You're not going to die, and everything you went through was just a torture treatment for God to sit back and laugh at you. If you will allow Him, He will show you why you went through what you went through, and all the people who were going to step on those landmines of life, but because you stepped on them first, you can now help them to go navigate through it injury free. And at the end of it, they will say, your name is blessed. They will thank you. Your tombstone will read well because your pain was used to help other people. So go and find out why you're here.
Wow. Oh, woo. Y'all heard her. And you know she's still a bully. Don't get it wrong.
Oh, yes, I am. I can't turn it off. I love people, man. My heart. I love God's people. I love them out there. Even the ones that don't know they belong to Him. He ain't turning you loose. He hovering, waiting on you.
We love you too, Tomi, and thank you so much for your time. Your message is powerful. And until we meet again, my sister.
Amen.
Peace. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Woo! Hey, you guys already heard it. I mean, you just, man, what more can you ask for from someone that been through it all, right? I mean, there's more stuff in there that she didn't drop, that you need to hear. So reach out to her. Make sure you sisters out there, she's calling y'all. Reach out to her. And if she did not cut off the fellas, hey, you know what? She knows where to put you if you need some help. So anybody out there that's stuck in that identity crisis who really wants to find their purpose, please, please, please reach out to my friend, Tomi Ferguson. Take advantage of this opportunity. You can see that this woman is for real, for real. So as we wrap up, I made a couple of things that I'm just going to say this. Find the purpose in your pain, as she said. Honor that and know being of character instead of having character will help you when you find that purpose. And then purpose in your pain, you will see why you have the pain and what it's meant for you to help. That's our responsibility. So listen, as I wrap up, please make sure you check out this episode, record it, share it, subscribe to it, pass this on to your friend. This woman is for real, for real. And I want you to know that this is what we're all about, Conversations with Geoff. As we close this thing up, hit me up if you need it. My email, geoffctyson@gmail.com, to stay connected. Pass this on and be a part of our mission to impact 1 million lives through the messaging of folks like you just saw today. 1 million lives, change the conversation they have with themselves, about themselves, create a community of caring people that find their purpose. Hey, listen, gotta run. Appreciate you all. Check this message out again, and again. We'll see you later.